Thanks for making us a part of your morning. This is Good Morning PD on Live 95.
Thursday morning, Schofield's our sponsor, 843-661-0937. Just a couple of minutes, we'll tell you some of the specials at Schofield. Spring around the corner. Doesn't feel like it, but yesterday I think was the first day of spring.
At 5:58 p.m., while there was a cold rain falling,
Roger
arrived.
mentioned in his call about the 1 cent tax, the issue that we dealt with here extensively, probably too extensively for some people who don't live in District 1. They tired of the drumbeat of conversations we had every single morning in regards to that. But there's kind of, it's back in the news as we speak.
Well, there is this issue that has bubbled up, and that's what I was going to ask you about, because I don't think I really understand it. But this has to do with a 1 cent tax for the city of Florence, I think. And there's some back and forth. The mayor first came out proposing something along those lines, and then James Schofield, I see, now has an op-ed in the Morning News, I think, today.
City and county politics. There's always a natural rub. And I ain't talking about the rub you put on barbecue. I'm talking about a rub like, I'm a little bit opposed to you and you're a little bit opposed. It's not total antagonism. It's not, that we're absolutely opposed to one another. It's just the functions of county and city government and their uniqueness in relation to one another. The mayor has an obligation to represent the interests of the city. The county council has an obligation to represent the interests of the county. And sometimes those aren't on the same sheet of music. The mayor believes that the city should be entitled to more of the penny tax that the county collects. The county says the mayor gets more than his fair share. They're advocating their positions because they're representing the county and city. Some of the numbers that I think James Schofield articulated in the article was the fact that 135,000 county residents, reside in the county. 35,000 of those residents reside in the city. That means 100,000 reside outside of the city limits. They claim, I've always said, I think that's overstated by a little bit, but I wouldn't argue with James's numbers. You could argue with James, and the way he presents certain things, but his numbers are normally real accurate. In his article, he said 35% of the revenue of the current capital penny is collected by people who don't live in the county. So when you really take the 35% and pull it out, that means the city has about a total of 25% of the population. If you pull out the 35% that don't live in the county that contribute to tax, the city residents are contributing about 16.25 of the money that is collected via the penny tax. Here's what I'll say, and this is just my opinion, not choosing sides with the county or the city, because I hope they can come to some amicable arrangement, because I think that's in all of our best interests at the county and city, or at least, respectful of one another. There'll never be an agreement. I mean, I was on county council and we dealt with the city and they thought we were son of a guns and we thought they were son of a guns. Well, you got two mutual interests. I mean, they're not common. They're not exclusive of one another, but they're separate in their priorities. And, when I think about the argument the mayor's making as a county council member, the argument I would make, and I think this is the argument that James is making and the other members of county council are making, is the money that is collected in the city limits does not come from residents of the city. In other words, if you've got, it's economic engine of the PD. The city of Florence is indeed where people come to transact and do commerce. So naturally, that's going to be where the money is collected, but it's not being paid by people who live in the city. It's being paid by people who live in the county. And are you going to penalize the people who live in the county who come to the city and purchase goods or buy dinners or, go to grocery stores? Are you going to spend all that money in the city when the money didn't come from the city? And if you wanted to be a troublemaker, if we wanted to be, two-time troublemaking Tim, I would argue that, some radio show host could potentially organize a boycott of county residents to city businesses. You want to keep the money. Let's see how you 35,000 people in the city do supporting your own economy. I think that's unfair. I hope that never happens. I'm just saying you got to be careful about these county city issues, and there's got to be respect on both sides. And, they're kind of hashing it out. I think the mayor appeared before a joint study committee or a full committee in Columbia kind of on behalf of the Municipal Association, believing that cities should have a right to implement their own penny tax or have a created shared revenue with the county tax. I'd be real careful with that. And does the city get its fair share? Does the city not get its fair share? I'm not a county council member any longer, so I don't know that I'm equipped to pass judgment. I do know that the numbers look a little bit odd to me, and I'd be real careful about believing that because the money is collected in the city, the money comes from the city. Because many county residents come into the city and spend their money. So I just be careful with that.
And so this proposal doesn't really take that side of the argument into account.
Correct. To me, it doesn't.
Okay.
But I'm a former county council member now. I just think there's a way.
And I'm just trying to understand.
Sure. We should understand it. And that's a local issue we'll probably pay close attention to as it works through this year and into the 2020 referendum. Here's the deal. Let's be gut level honest. The county, as a result of the penny tax, has assumed some political horsepower. The penny tax collects $165 million over 7 years. And do the math. What's that, $23 or $4 million a year, somewhere thereabout? That's a lot of money in county government, a county the size of Florence. And then they've been able to make improvements on a lot of roads, EMS stations, fire stations, public safety is how they would call it. They made a substantial upgrade to the 911 network, the radio systems that first responders utilize. Now, obviously, you're committing to your county when you vote to implement the penny tax. They're trying to be good stewards of that money by making the county a better place to work, live, and raise a family, and it's county-wide. And I've just never been a big fan of carving out. I mean, I'll be honest with you, while we're talking about it, one of the problems I didn't express it much because I thought I had a better argument to make on the financing of the school board. One of the problems I had was specific and exclusive to District 1. I mean, either we're a county or we're not. I mean, I understand the city. I understand the differing, school districts. But I think when you try to set aside or set apart one at the expense of others, you're asking for political turmoil. And if I were advocating for an increase in funding in Florence schools, I would do it countywide. I think that's a more sellable approach. I think the people around the county, you got to be careful not to appear to be, advantaging one group of people over another group of people. But on the issue James and the mayor are discussing, the mayor's doing exactly what a mayor should do. He's representing the interests of the city. His job as mayor of the city, he's not the mayor of the county. He's the mayor of the city. And he wants the funds and resources to make the city better. And the county's making the argument, no, you get more than your fair share because people who come to the city and spend money aren't from the city. And I think the numbers are fairly clear. 135,000 people in the county. Of the 135,000 in the county, only 35 live in the city. That means 100,000 live outside, and the vast majority of those people come into the city to conduct commerce. Take a break. Back in a minute. Good Morning PD Live 95.